Hello there, I'm MountPain27 and this is Dean of Doom, the show where we give grades to classic and contemporary Doom wads. Why? Because ranking things is fun. Today's episode will be dedicated to the 10x10 project, or just 10x10, a Boom-compatible wad released in 2022 by LunchLunch. 10x10 has a rather unusual premise. Every one of its maps was constructed using 10 textures and 10 flats, all chosen from stock assets. This might sound like a stifling restriction, but LunchLunch did allow himself some leeway. Essential textures such as doors, lights, exit signs, cage bars, and all black for voidscapes were all permitted. At a glance, 10x10 would appear to follow in the footsteps of numerical community projects such as 10 Sectors, the 1024 series, and the 1000 Lines community projects, but 10x10's gimmick has a less pronounced effect on its gameplay and visuals than the gimmicks of those wads have on theirs. Being a solo outing, 10x10 is also more focused and idiosyncratic. Though each map adheres to a different aesthetic than the last, the final product feels spiritually unified, not unlike Sunder and Abandon's interdimensional odysseys. LunchLunch borrows heavily from other mappers at times, but his original creations more than hold their own against the work of his influences. The 10x10 project is one of the most engaging, evocative, and personality-rich wads I've ever played. I recorded my 4th full 10x10 playthrough for this episode, and that's the best way I can quantify my enthusiasm for it. So here's how the show works. Every map gets one grade for quality and one for difficulty. Quality grades go from A to F. Grade A levels are fun, memorable, visually distinctive, creative, and a fair challenge. We grade difficulty from X to E, X for extreme, E for easy, A through D in between. Keep in mind, my idea of a great map is probably not the same as yours, but that's okay. Disagreeing is part of the fun, after all. At the end of the day, this show is about spreading the joy of Doom, so let's do so. Before we start, the rules are, we play on ultra violence and must pistol start each level. I need to play the wad twice before reviewing it. Saves are allowed, and we go for 100% kills in all levels, making exceptions when it's just not worth it. Today we're using Z-Doom and DSDA Doom with compatibility set to Boom. Now to the wad. Map 1, 10x10. Every map in 10x10 starts with a shot of the palette LunchLunch chose for it, which creates a pleasant tickle of anticipation before each unveiling. 10x10's opener was destined to be a tech base with its concrete, metal, and startan selections, but holy mackerel is it a pretty one. As you can see from its liberal use of essential textures, 10x10 is less an exercise in asceticism than creative focus. LunchLunch embraces abstraction, and that makes his visual chops stronger. Things and spaces seem to serve tangible purposes, but on closer inspection it's hard to say what those are. The effect is similar to the name one thing in this photo phenomenon, which is common in Doom mapping, but more noticeable when mappers like LunchLunch fit tons of detail through a relatively narrow color spectrum. Sunder, Fractured Worlds, Struggle Antaregion Legacy, and the star dates all come to mind. 10x10's nonchalant archvile deployment should calibrate your difficulty expectations, with the Pinky Peekaboo fight serving as a low-impact introduction to LunchLunch combat. He loves to make the player multitask, usually with a mix of area deniers, pain sectors, and grunts applying pressure. He's also fond of prop fights like the zombie deluge, which I dare you not to enjoy. 10x10 the map also patents LunchLunch's signature move.
Schutzstaffel.
The Wolfenstein SS have the twofold effect of needling 100% kill seekers into finding all the secrets and rewarding their efforts with dopey Schutzstaffels. The blondes in blue are a consistent source of comic relief. The cherry on top of this excellent opener is its MIDI selection, which will give you a dose of the creepy crawlies. Grade A, difficulty C-. Map 2, Lockjaw. This bucket of guts starts off Tyson style, but keeps munitions limited even when it starts doling out weapons. It's not so much ammo famine as ammo peckishness, but secret hunters will be better equipped to stave off the hunger regardless. Lockjaw has the lowest monster count in the wad by a lot, allowing the elegance and economy of LunchLunch's placements to shine. This caco-swaddled pain elemental will drain your ammo with loose lost souls, revenant mercs will snipe and bare-knuckle brawl you, turret mancubi block your path and sulk in the cheap seats, and archviles stir the pot. The yellow key room is on a strict timer. A new Martian gets released every 4 SSG blasts, so don't miss a step of the dance. The final fight is particularly diverse and deftly woven. 2 perched revenants, a long-range arachno, a mank tank, a hell knight blocking your escape, and an archvile attention whore. I've seen this brand of body horror hell enough for Lockjaw's texturing to seem a bit paint by numbers to me, but every one of its encounters feels distinct and consequential. Grade A-, difficulty C+. Map 3, Salvia. A sinister elaboration on last map's flayed hell theme, Salvia hitches up the difficulty right away. This barbed first encounter can spill into the adjoining rooms if you're sloppy, and you don't want that. Every incidental fight comes loaded with a mix of hit scanner miners, and beefy demons, so play smart. The Archvile Yellow Doorman in the southeast chamber will pants you if you fail to procure the secret rocket launcher and don't have an SSG yet. 3 of Salvia's textures have faces on them, creating a bevy of whacked out screenshots for Lipith's dread-soaked MIDI to feed on. Map 1 hinted at LunchLunch's love for stylized lock-in fights, but Salvia professes it openly. The yellow skull key encounter makes you evade the gazes of 2 Archviles snooping from the gutter while imps boo you and a pair of barons off stage. That's fine and dandy, but the yellow keycard shebang takes a turn for the risque. Everything about Salvia is geared to build tension, so the Leather Daddy Cyber Demon debut is a hilarious reverse card, especially since his getup actually makes it harder to concentrate on fighting him the first time. This is what I meant when I described 10x10 as idiosyncratic. LunchLunch's twisted sense of humor isn't for all audiences, but the specificity of his vision is exactly what I look for in Doom WODs today. With the yellow card in hand, Megasphere up and dive into the final fight, which packs the house with throngs of floaters and mid-tiers while another Cyber DSM gives chase. Salvia is a slow burner, but it pays off big time. Grade A, difficulty B+. Map 4, Hey, This is Library, stealing its title from a meme that I was unaware of until now.
Hey! This is Library!
Is riveting, elusive, and sublime, announcing from the outset that this is going to be a map to remember. The opening fight presents you with a shotgun, a pair of sleeping Archies, and 2 doors leading to fights that are difficult to juggle with the vials alive. I've had little success making the twins infight with stuff, so nowadays I just shotgun them, dart for the SSG in the next room, fight for the rocket launcher, and turn the zombies behind door number 2 into catch up with it. With a foothold established, take a moment to gape at Lunch's visuals. One thing's for sure, with its obsessive orthogonality and color coordination, Penrose layouts, and floor texture tapestries, Hey This Is Library has insane gazebos somewhere in its family tree. Unlike Sunder, Hey This Is Library doesn't intimidate so much as hypnotize. The music choice has a lot to do with that. When silence descends upon this place, I can almost hear the slime drip, drip, dripping while shadows creep between musty shelves. Normally you can't judge a book by its cover, but Library is as fun to play as it is to look at. The Hell Knight Spectre room is all kinds of claustrophobic. The yellow key chamber is an exuberant rocket pop-off that's always more forgiving than I think it'll be, and the ending overflows with delicious fodder, but the Hell Noble and Pinky Parade makes dead ends wherever it goes. Remember to check the Baron Coves for an ammo refill before you try to leave, because 6 more Archviles are waiting to avenge their kinsmen. Hey This Is Library feels like it was made just for me. It's a dizzyingly beautiful masterwork that I never get tired of playing. Grade A+, difficulty A-. Map 5, No More Zoomer Girls. I won't ask what Zoomer Girls did to LunchLunch, but it can't have been good. It never ceases to amaze me just how many different moods Doom can evoke. No More Zoomer Girls action is razor sharp, but its drowsy MIDI makes finishing fights feel like waking up after being under anesthesia. The cream-colored ambience is similar to Hey This Is Library, but LunchLunch organizes this one much more rigidly. Following the tutorial fight in the foyer, the map is broken into 3 challenge rooms. Infighting, space management, and Archvile avoidance skills are a must for this map. The Metal Room Plasma Fest with its clambering imps, clutch of cacos, and watchful Archvile usually puts a bee in my bonnet, but I managed to clear it in one go this time. Not so with the Red Key Room. LunchLunch forces you to wake all the monsters up and thread the needle between cyber rockets and a convergence of Hell Nobles and imps, but that's not all. Respawning Archviles cover the hidey holes, and the switch that crushes them is blocked by 4 cacos and a pain elemental. The switch also takes Cybe out, effectively ending the fight. It's worth an aside to mention that LunchLunch always turns his crushers off when they serve their purposes. That gesture has real panache and makes his maps feel like they have minds of their own. Zoomer Girl's only secret is this BFG, which is pretty goddamned essential for the surprise final fight. It's not immediately obvious that 4 out of 5 enemies in this map are imps, because LunchLunch does such a great job making you fear everything else. This marauding cyber seems like the map's main antagonist until the Archviles and Pain Elementals swoop in, by which point you're halfway to death by 1,000 scratches. When you finally take out cyber number 3, No More Zoomer Girls returns again to murky quiet. This map's combination of vicious action and mechanical dispassion is highly unusual, and its title lives rent-free in my head. Grade A, difficulty A. Map 6, Sad Bastard. One hell of a pivot from the cold ruminations of maps 4 and 5, the flamboyant Sad Bastard will kick your ass up and down the dance floor. Every time I play this map, I think of 50 Shades of Grey Tall. The shameless fire blue, hyper-abstract environment and unchained combat would have made a great segue between Moldy and Joshy's maps. Don't play around with the BFG. To give you an idea of how precisely you're expected to use it, LunchLunch splits 4 cell charges across 2 Shustafel secrets. It's not a lot of wiggle room, but you can always lean on rockets. Each fight in Sad Bastard unlocks a new section of the map, leaving it wide open for the climactic crossfire of cyberdemons, barons, revenants, archviles, and all the shit they resurrect. I admit, taking a beating to such chipper music kinda smarts, especially since I'm a pretty inept cyberdemon duelist and pretty insecure about it. I have minor reservations about Sad Bastard, but its zany energy makes it hard to stay mad at. Oh, and this platforming at the end? You're gonna want to get used to that. Grade A-, difficulty A. Map 7, the Zull method. First, a bit of context for members of the audience who are not hardcore slaughterheads. The Zull method is named after Mr. Zull, aka Killer 5, who is best known for creating Dimensions, one of the hardest Doom WADs ever made. This map puts me in a bit of a pickle because it pays direct homage to 2 Zull WADs, and their thunder will be stolen if you play 10x10 or watch me talk about it first. Truth be told though, Zull method is so damn good that I couldn't resist peeking at Killer 5's work after playing it, so think of this as free advertising for LunchLunch, whose work is its own glowing review for Mr. Zull. What we're looking at right now is LunchLunch's reinterpretation of the Event Horizon, the flagship map from Killer 5's 2021 set of the same name. It's a penumbral palace of steel plates, poison, and gloom. Next to its fellow 10x10 maps, the Zull method's decoration feels restrained, but that's consistent with its source material. One of Killer 5's best attributes is his ability to craft dominating views with minimal lines. The relative harmlessness of these early encounters will crank up the heartbeat of any seasoned player. As soon as you step indoors, LunchLunch increases the voltage. Extricate the rocket launcher from its security detail and survive 3 lock-ins to open the red keycard fight, which is the deadliest non-secret encounter in the map. With Cyber Boss demolished, you can exit straight away if you wish, but only cowards and the close-minded could leave the Zull method unexplored. Stare into the void long enough and the way forward will present itself, but I warn you, forbidden knowledge comes at great cost. The Red Skull opens the Hell Knight Amphitheater outside and a secret door in the facility that whisks you away to another Zull landmark. Make sure your translucency is not set to 100 here, or you'll have a hell of a time dealing with this screaming avalanche half-blind. With the yellow and blue skulls acquired, you can teleport to the secret exit, the very sight of which is a natural laxative. The Zull method's appeal depends partly on your willingness to accept being confused and your tolerance for rather extreme combat, but I don't know how you can't be impressed by this map even if you're not in its target audience. LunchLunch's strict fight choreography brings out the best in you, and Killer 5 brings out the best in LunchLunch's visual stylings. This is the best tribute map I've ever played. Grade A, difficulty X-. Okay. Map 31, the Anna Dream. I think I see why LunchLunch expected this map to be unpopular. Borrowing its title from an extremely odd WAD from the early aughts, the Anna Dream, well, God left the Anna Dream unfinished. It's so insistently askew that even Hell's sleaziest building code inspector would have it condemned. So allergic to sensical texturing it would make Joe Ilya 10 years ago say, "Hey, stop stealing my moves." 80% of the monsters are SS troopers, which renders the combat banal as f***. And there's a MIDI rendition of Alejandro by copyright-friendly pop queen Madame Gugu playing in the background. What else? There's a pile of chainsaws next to a stuck mancubus, a room full of weirdly shaped elevators that recalls Mach 2 and/or the Master levels, a pair of cyberdemons that exist only to die unless you're dumb enough to let them shoot you, and a lovingly textured maze that insta-teleports you haphazardly around while you search for the red key and chop up Mein Leben. My favorite detail is this door frame that you're too tall to pass under unless you carefully drop into this bloody patch. The stupid hurts so good. In spite of its dumbness, I can say I enjoy this map without crossing my fingers behind my back. The Anna Dream revels in its bottom shelfness. Even if it wasn't attached to an obviously high-quality WAD, I think its gags are good enough to cue the player into its intentional slovenliness. Grade A-, difficulty D+. Map 8, Cocoa Puff's Breath. Well, that settles it. This is my favorite collection of Doom map titles. You had me at no more Zoomer Girls, but an all-brown level called Cocoa Puff's Breath? That's genius. With a whopping 1,600 monsters on its payroll, Cocoa Puff's Breath is 10x10's heavyweight champion, but don't start yawning yet. This isn't going to take as long as you think. LunchLunch reveals his hand slowly, stringing you along with crumbs of fights that, except for this Cyberdom-led shootout and a lucky Hell Knight horseshoe, don't even register on the Richter scale. Then this happens. Creeping through this supermassive, super detailed, super empty cavern, it will soon occur to you that there are still 1,400 monsters left to kill. This one's for all the marbles. The final Cocoa Puff battle dwarfs most fights in old Sunder, so if monsoons of projectiles and flailing limbs aren't your cup of tea, come on, live a little. So long as you save enough cells to keep parting the meat sea, you should be able to take laps, keep an eye out for cyber rockets, and carefully nuke the archviles on the periphery. In under a minute, the horde will have cannibalized itself substantially enough for you to relax. Riding high on its hyperbole and an upbeat MIDI, Cocoa Puff's finale is not the most sophisticated fight in the WAD, but it's 10x10's most euphoric set piece. Grade A, difficulty A. Map 9, Abuse Me Darling. The third and final map to eclipse 1,000 monsters, Abuse Me Darling is one of 10x10's most richly detailed maps. It marries Sunder-style spectacle with Danny Babinga brand voodoo lighting, but LunchLunch's floors are in a league of their own. Synthesizing such ornate designs from Doom 2's stock flats is like turning lemons into champagne. Abuse Me Darling brings enough heat to earn its penultimate slot, but portions out the chaos over a longer runtime than Cocoa Puff's Breath, tightening the noose one fight at a time. My favorite encounter is this beautifully decorated centerpiece, a full-court press of revenants and cacos complicated by a cyber turret and a frothing mass of Hell Knights, Imps, and Mancubi. You've won the fight if you can get behind the cacos, but don't touch the door they were guarding yet. Even with my undivided attention, the sight of so many archviles sprinting down the stairs stabs me with primal fear. The semifinal round is one of 10x10's most punishing. A cul-de-sac of perched Mancubi, revenant bleachers, 2 cyber demons, and a flood of Hell Knight missile shields. The cleanup is slow and draining, but don't get sloppy. You can't afford to be at low health for the next part. This map is tough, no doubt about it, but its ending is the only section that will genuinely abuse you, darling. God have mercy on the souls of the saveless, because the prize for sweating out this platforming section is a jack-in-the-box ambush that's absolute agony to take on without cells. Victory is irretrievable if you fall in the hot drink. Thankfully, there's an extra 100 cells on the cliff. Dankeschön. Abuse Me Darling ticks all the boxes of a great penultimate map. It's got killer visuals, ramps up the dread, and puts your skills to the test. But 10x10 isn't going to waste its final map on an icon of sin. Oh no. Grade A, difficulty X-. Map 10, LunchLunch. This one is special. The weirdest world in a WAD full of weird worlds, LunchLunch defies categorization. It's a place that humans were never meant to see. Not forbidden, so much as statistically unfindable, like the center of the Library of Babel. I can't help but personify this map as some kind of self-building, inorganic elder deity amused by your trespass. I think it's the teeth grinning at you through the walls. Guardian Angel Loses Their Will by MSX2+ is the most inspired pick in 10x10 soundtrack and, in my opinion, one of the best MIDIs ever written for Doom. Its sinuous, twinkling melody lines dance at the edges of your vision and then vanish into reproachful silence. It's the perfect complement to this map's monolithic presence, an embrace of lifeless tech and fathomless consciousness. I hope I'm expressing, if nothing else, how much I want to capture what this map feels like, despite the impossibility of doing so with words. Lunchtimes 4 has some of the most oblique, chilling, inevitable fights I've seen in its weight class. Solving the riddle of the secret Pinky and Cyber turret encounter rewards you handsomely, and the main lobby fight crackles with intensity, but I'm transfixed by the Hell Knight room. Unless you pounce on them with a BFG first, the cattle will patiently flow until they clog every artery in the room and pelt you to death. Most of us disrespect Hell Knights on principle, even in large numbers. They're just big imps, right? Well, I laughed them off during playthrough number 3, neglected the BFG, and ate for 5 minutes. Left unchecked, this simple premise evolves into a frightening predicament. Dumb, individually minor threats in large enough numbers will inexorably overwhelm you. The glorious, stomach-churning archvile battle atop this nukage skyscraper is the yin to the Hell Knight's yang. I think it's worth showing in its entirety. LunchLunch changes the locks on the teleporters in the pit, so you're forced to tiptoe back across the gap when you're finished with this. I may not enjoy Doom platforming, at all, but I do love seeing a mapper play the part of the merciless god of the machine. Lunch Times 4 doesn't quite top its 2 blue key encounters, but god damn if it doesn't spit roast you down the stretch. This Kako grid gives me the heebie-jeebies, the column-filled Archie, Cyber, and Zombie encounter is lethally finicky, and the final fight unleashes a tube of demons into a very cramped room and flanks you with a Hell Knight bulwark and a chamber full of Sentry archviles. It's a say a prayer and hope for the best situation, but whatever faith you brought to bear will quickly be crushed if you survive it. This abyss of cages and endless line of platforms is seeming proof of God's non-existence. LunchLunch is the soul of the 10x10 project. The irony of a map with such a silly title prompting hours of reflection from me would probably amuse its creator, and I think that's the whole point. It's hard to shake this map's supernatural stare until you remember what it's called. Then you smile. Grade A+, difficulty A+. So, the 10x10 project is unbelievably good. It will humble even veteran players and mappers with its aesthetic dexterity, stimulate exhausted imaginations, and entertain thrill seekers without brutalizing them excessively. More so than most Doom WADs I've played, 10x10 feels like a tour through the mind of its maker. LunchLunch expresses his game design values so lucidly and makes such particular choices with music, map titles, secrets, and costuming that you come away feeling like you know him somehow. I suppose that's the way it is with all great art, though truth be told, I think 10x10 is at its most compelling when it's at its most detached and inhuman. It's like Sunder, but more succinct. These extraplanar stops are all connected by a profound sense of foreignness, which, at this point, I might as well admit is my favorite kind of atmosphere in Doom. Suffice to say, 10x10 catapulted LunchLunch into my firmament of mappers. I will eagerly play anything he makes from now on, and you should too. My final grade for 10x10 is an A+. Difficulty-wise, this is a serious challenge with a pretty short run-up, but if you can handle something like Speed of Doom, consider yourself prepared. Let's slap an A on it. Now for my Dean's List. Valedictorian, Map 10, LunchLunch. Salutatorian, Map 4, hey, this is Library. Class President, Map 9, Abuse Me Darling. And we're not giving a dunce cap today. Anna Dream wants it, but it's too good at being bad to really deserve it. Thank you very much for watching, and please feel free to share your thoughts on the WAD down below. I'd love to hear what you think, and I'll heart your comments to let you know I've read them. Now I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge my generous patrons. Aaron Allen, Agile Jackson, Agu XYZ, Alephany, Alex Topfer, Artisan Talzar, Bo Higginbotham, Beatbeard, Ben Barrett, Big Psy and his trusty Glock, Birdburn, Blexor, Blind as a Mat, Buildersith, Bitefire, Kappa-Bitch, Captain Wave, Cheese Wheel, Christophine Place, Cram Salesman, Cutman Mike, Damo, Dan, Dario Romero, Delirium, Do-It-Yourself, Dorothy Miller, Eggboy, Emeljan, Emma Essex, also known as MSX2+, who composed that amazing MIDI. Check out more of her work, she's a tremendous artist. Felix Wilson, Folkstorn, Francis T218, General Roasterock, Glenn Marmon, Griffin Upchurch, Hex Elix, Hot Tomato, Hyak Show, In Captivity, Jeff Hibbert, Jeff Sharilla, John Averick, Jose Ballestero, Josh Ballard, Jude, Just Some Schmuck, Just Great 98, Killplane, Quan, Large Cat, Lexi Max, Logan Lazalda, Lucrenth, Lumnal, Mancubian Candidate, Maniac, Mark Rowland, Master Drew 117, Matthew Gower, McJimbles, Michael Akins, Miracle Water, Mixer, Moko Mothman MM47, Mozicon, Mr. Bob Cyndaquil, Myolden, Nafferty, Neurometry, Nick XCOM, Knights 108, Number 26, Not Obelisk, NX Avery, Omnibot, Painful Hill 72, Pengirzan, Pezavangaj, Phantom Puff, Philip Coffey, Pyro She, Quibs, Red Doomed Earth, Reese Anderson, Richard Fry, Roadworks, Robbie Lyons, Roofy, Sega Monkey, Sean Grant, Sid Menon, Sir Lethbridge Doomer, Small Venom, Snacker Fork, Spinner 8, Stonemason, Stupid Nick, Sunriser, Super Pecan Man, Sylvester Priss, Tara Kushino, That Guy Known as Will, The Fiery Charmeleon, The Freeman 500, The Sapphire Try, TJG1289, Trilby Trillion, Turbine 2K5, Why Bimo Not a Crab, William Huber, and Wankashak. Thank you. I appreciate you all. This is Mount Pain 27, and I'll see you in the next episode of Dean of Doom.